Are Republicans in Georgia actually acting normal? Because top Georgia Republicans are rejecting calls from Trump and from Georgia MAGA lawmakers to impeach Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Let's get into it. Georgia State Senator Colton Moore is leading the charge to impeach Fani Willis. Here's what he posted on his Twitter account yesterday.
Do you want a civil war? I don't want a civil war. I don't want to have to draw my rifle. I want to make this problem go away with my legislative means of doing so. And the first step to getting that done is defunding Fani Willis.
Trump, of course, praised Colton Moore with this recorded message.
Highly respected Georgia State Senator Colton Moore deserves thanks and congratulations of everyone for having the courage and conviction to fight the radical left lunatics who are so badly hurting the great state of Georgia.
And here's Brian Kemp shutting that whole thing down.
There have been calls by one individual in the General Assembly and echoed outside of these walls by the former president for a special session that would ignore current Georgia law and directly interfere with the proceedings of a separate but equal branch of government. Up to this point, I have not seen any evidence that D.A. Willis's actions or lack thereof warrant action by the Prosecuting Attorney Oversight Commission, but that will ultimately be a decision that the commission will make. Regardless, in my mind, a special session of the General Assembly to end run around this law is not feasible and may ultimately prove to be unconstitutional.
Meanwhile, the two top Georgia state lawmakers, Speaker of the House John Burns and Georgia Majority Leader Steve Gooch, have both rejected the calls to move forward with any step to remove Fani Willis. In a letter to his caucus, John Burns wrote, "We continue to have a few members of the General Assembly making misleading or false claims about the General Assembly's lawful powers regarding an ongoing criminal case before our judiciary." He also warned that removing funding for DA would also have unintended consequences because it would prevent prosecutions of serious offenses like murder, rape, armed robbery. And Majority Leader Steve Gooch said very plainly, look, the votes are not there. It would require Democratic support, and even if there was a special session, the numbers just aren't there to impeach her. And he also mentioned that there are Georgia state lawmakers that are receiving threats from the MAGA folk. When you take a step back, you start to realize it's kind of like we're in an episode of The Twilight Zone, because this is now the second time Donald Trump wants Georgia lawmakers to do something that they can't do. Before, it was to reverse the results of the 2020 election based on unsupported claims, and now he's advocating local Georgia lawmakers to hold a quote-unquote special session to remove Fani Willis from pursuing a case against him because he tried to reverse the results of the 2020 election based on unsupported claims. It's just totally nuts. And while it's a sigh of relief to see Republicans fight back against unhinged MAGA legal theories, I still think that folks like Brian Kemp haven't forgotten that Donald Trump had David Perdue run a primary campaign against him for governor. You guys remember David Perdue? Look, Trump heavily backed David Perdue and he suffered a humiliating defeat in 2022. Trump actually campaigned